Captain Dehayan stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, watching the massive structure grow larger on the view screen. The Galactic Council Station was unlike anything humanity had ever built. It stretched across space like a silver wheel, so enormous that Earth's moon could fit inside its central hub. Thousands of ships from dozens of different species orbited around it, each one representing a civilization that had joined the Council long before humans even discovered fire. "We're being hailed," said Lieutenant Minho from the communications station. His voice carried a mixture of excitement and nervousness that Dehayan understood completely. This was humanity's first official contact with the greater galactic community. "Put it through," Dehayan ordered, straightening his uniform. The view screen flickered and showed a creature that looked like a tall reptile with blue scales and 4 golden eyes. Its mouth moved in ways that seemed impossible, but the universal translator rendered its words into perfect Korean. "Human vessel Perseverance, you are cleared for docking Bay 17. Ambassador Hannah and her diplomatic team are expected in the council chamber within 2 hours. Do not be late." The council does not wait for newcomers. The transmission ended abruptly before Dehayan could respond. "Friendly bunch," muttered Jiho, the ship's chief strategist. He was reviewing data on a tablet, his eyes never leaving the screen even as he spoke. "I've been analyzing their communication patterns. Every message we've received has been phrased as an order, never a request." Dehayan nodded. He had noticed the same thing. "Keep monitoring everything. I want to know what we're walking into." The docking procedure took 30 minutes. The Perseverance was guided by automated systems into a bay that could have held 50 ships their size. As the airlock connected, Dehayan met Ambassador Hannah in the corridor. She wore formal diplomatic robes and carried herself with practiced grace, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. "Ready?" he asked. Hannah smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. "I've prepared for this my entire career. Humanity's future might depend on the next few hours. No pressure, then?" Dehayan said with a slight grin. They walked through the airlock with an escort of 4 security officers and Jiho, who insisted on attending as a military observer. The station's interior was breathtaking. The corridors were wide enough to accommodate creatures 3 times the size of humans, and the walls seemed to be made of some kind of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. Aliens of every imaginable shape moved past them. Some walked on legs, others floated, and one creature seemed to roll like a living boulder. A guide met them at the entrance, a being that looked like a slender insect covered in green fur. It spoke in a musical voice. "Follow me to the council chamber. Do not touch anything. Do not speak to other delegates unless they address you first. Do not make sudden movements." The list of rules continued for several minutes. Hannah listened patiently, nodding at appropriate moments, but Dehayan caught Jiho rolling his eyes. When the guide finally finished, they were led through a maze of corridors to a massive set of doors that must have been 50 meters tall. The council chamber was beyond impressive. It was a sphere with delegates seated on platforms that floated at different levels, ranged in concentric circles around a central stage. Hundreds of species were represented. The air was filled with the sound of dozens of different languages being translated simultaneously. The human delegation was directed to a platform near the bottom. A position that Jiho quietly noted was reserved for the least important members. A deep voice resonated through the chamber, seeming to come from everywhere at once. "The Council recognizes the presence of humanity, the newest species to achieve faster-than-light travel. Speaker Velthar will address them." One of the platforms descended to the center stage. On it stood the same blue-scaled reptilian creature that had contacted the Perseverance. Velthor was even more imposing in person, standing at least 3 meters tall with robes that seemed to be made of liquid gold. "Humans," Velthor began, his 4 eyes focusing on Hannah. "You are fortunate. The Council has decided to offer you membership in our great coalition. For 10,000 years, we have maintained peace across the galaxy. We have ended wars, prevented famines, and guided primitive species toward enlightenment. Now we extend this gift to you." Hannah stepped forward to the edge of their platform. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, We are honored by this opportunity. We hope to learn from the wisdom of the Council and contribute to the continued peace of the galaxy. Her words were diplomatic and careful, exactly what the situation called for. But Velthar seemed almost dismissive of them. He gestured, and a holographic document appeared in the air, pages of text scrolling past faster than anyone could read. "This is the Treaty of Ascension," Velthar announced. "All species sign it upon joining the Council. It is 3,000 pages, but the essence is simple. You will surrender control of your military forces to the Council's unified command. You will open all trade to Council regulation. You will share all technology with the Council database. You will accept Council governors to guide your political development. In return, you receive our protection and the benefits of galactic civilization." Daehyun felt his stomach tighten. He glanced at Jiho, who was typing furiously on his tablet, his face carefully neutral. Hannah maintained her diplomatic smile, but he could see her mind racing behind her eyes. "This is quite comprehensive," Hannah said carefully. "We would need time to review these terms and consult with Earth's government before making such significant commitments." The chamber filled with sounds that the translator rendered as laughter, though it came from dozens of different species and sounded nothing like human laughter. Velthar's expression, if it could be called that, seemed to show something like amusement mixed with contempt. "Time? All civilized species recognize the wisdom of the Council immediately. There is nothing to review. The terms are the same for everyone, and have been for thousands of years. You sign now, or you return to your little world and remain isolated from galactic society forever. Choose quickly. The Council has more important matters to attend to than the hesitation of primitives." Hannah opened her mouth to respond, but Velthar raised a clawed hand. "You have 1 hour to consider. Return here with your decision. Do not waste our time further." The platform carrying the human delegation rose back to its position at the chamber's edge. As soon as they were out of immediate view, Jiho leaned close to Daehyun and Hannah. "This is wrong," he whispered urgently. "I've been analyzing the treaty text. It's not membership. It's complete surrender of sovereignty. They want to control everything about Earth." Hannah looked shaken. "But surely that's just how things work in the galaxy. Perhaps we need guidance." "Look around," Daehyun said quietly, his eyes scanning the chamber. He had noticed something during Velthar's speech. "Watch how the other delegates are looking at us." Hannah followed his gaze. Several alien delegations were indeed watching them, but not with the superiority shown by Velthar. Their expressions, as far as could be read on alien faces, looked like pity. One creature, something that resembled a large moth with luminescent wings, caught Hannah's eye and made a subtle gesture toward one of the chamber's exits. "I think," Hannah said slowly, "we need more information before we make any decisions." "Something isn't right here." Daehyun nodded, agreed. Jiho, start a deep analysis of everything we've seen and heard. Hannah, see if you can make contact with some of the other delegates quietly. I'm going back to the ship to check our security systems. I have a feeling we might need to leave this station in a hurry, as they separated to carry out their tasks. None of them noticed the small surveillance devices tracking their every move, or the way Velthar watched them from his private chamber with an expression that suggested he had seen this all before. And it never ended well for those who questioned the Council. Hannah walked through the station's lower levels, trying to appear casual while her heart raced. The moth-like creature had sent her a message through her personal communicator. Just 3 words and coordinates. Maintenance level 7. She had told her security escort that she needed to visit the facilities, and they had reluctantly agreed to wait outside while she went in alone, instead of entering the facilities. She had slipped through a service corridor that led deeper into the station. The lower levels were darker and less maintained than the grand chambers above. The walls here were plain metal, and the lighting flickered occasionally. She saw maintenance workers from various species moving through the corridors, all of them looking tired and downtrodden. Ambassador Hannah. The voice came from behind her, soft and musical. She turned to see the moth creature from the council chamber. Up close, it was beautiful in an alien way, with wings that shimmered with patterns of light that seemed to shift and change. Its face was more human-like than she expected, with large, dark eyes that held deep sadness. "Thank you for coming," the creature said. "My name is Kryn. I risked much to contact you. We do not have much time before you are missed." "Why did you want to meet me?" Hannah asked, keeping her voice low. "What's going on here?" Kryn's wings drooped slightly. "I wanted to warn you. To tell you the truth about the Council before you make a mistake my people made 400 years ago, the treaty they showed you, the one they want you to sign immediately, it is not what they claim." "What do you mean?" "It is a trap, Ambassador. A beautiful trap that has caught 47 species over thousands of years. When my people first encountered the Council, we were shown the same treaty. We were told it was for our benefit, for peace and prosperity. We believed them. We signed." Kryn's voice grew bitter. "Within 10 years, we had no control over our own world. The Council controlled our military, our trade, our government, even how many children we could have. They took our best minds to serve the Council. They took our resources. When we protested, they reminded us that we had agreed to their terms." Hannah felt cold despite the warm air of the corridor. "But surely you could have left." "Broken the treaty?" "3 species tried," Kryn said quietly. "The Council declared them galactic threats. They were destroyed completely. Their worlds are now dead, used as examples of what happens to those who break Council law. My people learned to accept our fate. We work as laborers now, maintaining stations like this, serving the will of species that joined the Council before us and now have power over us." "This can't be true," Hannah said. But even as she spoke, she remembered Velther's dismissive tone, the pitying looks from other delegates, the rushed signing demand. "The Council claims to maintain peace." "They do maintain peace," Kryn replied. "The peace of the prison yard, where all are equal in their lack of freedom. The only species with real power are those who founded the Council thousands of years ago. Everyone else is varying degrees of slave." Kryn moved closer, and Hannah could smell something like flowers and electricity. "I tell you this because humans are different. You are new. You have not signed yet. You can still refuse. You can still escape." They said, "We would be isolated if we don't join." "Isolated is better than enslaved," Kryn said firmly. "At least you would still be free. At least you would still be yourselves." Anna's mind raced with questions. How does the Council maintain this control? Surely species could band together and resist. "They have weapons," Kryn said. "Ancient weapons from the founding species. Planet killers. Reality bombs. Things that can destroy solar systems. Any resistance is met with overwhelming force. But more than that, they control information. Most species never learn the truth until after they have signed. By then, it is too late. The treaty is enforced by the Council's military, which is made up of ships from all member species, controlled by Council command. You would be forced to fight against other enslaved species if ordered." A sound echoed down the corridor, and Kryn's wings tensed. "I must go. If they find me talking to you, I will be recycled. That is what they call it when they eliminate troublesome individuals. Remember what I told you, Ambassador? Do not sign. Save your species while you still can." Kryn disappeared into the shadows, moving with surprising speed. Hannah stood alone in the corridor for a moment, her diplomatic training warring with the sick feeling in her stomach. Could this be true? Or was Kryn trying to manipulate humanity for some unknown reason? She made her way back to the diplomatic level and found Daehaen and Jiho waiting for her with grim expressions. They had commandeered a private room meant for delegate conferences. As soon as she entered, Jiho activated a device that he said would block surveillance. "We have a problem," Jiho said without preamble. He pulled up holographic displays showing complex data. "I've been analyzing the station's systems. My scans detected massive weapon installations hidden throughout the station and in orbit around it. These aren't defensive weapons. They're offensive platforms capable of destroying planets." "That matches what I just learned," Hannah said. And she told them everything Kryn had revealed. Daehaen listened with growing anger visible on his face. "I had my crew do some research," he added. "We accessed the galactic database, the public parts at least. I had them search for records of species that encountered the council but never joined. Do you know what we found? Nothing? Hannah guessed. Worse than nothing? We found brief entries, listing them as extinct due to various causes. Natural disasters, pandemics, cosmic events, but the timing is suspicious. Every species that refused the council died out within a generation of their refusal. Every single one. The three of them sat in silence for a moment, the weight of this knowledge pressing down on them. Finally, Hannah spoke. We need to inform Earth. We need to tell them what we've learned, so they can prepare. Prepare for what? Jiho asked. If we refuse to sign, the Council will declare us a threat. We have one planet and maybe 300 military vessels. They have 47 species and tens of thousands of ships, plus weapons that can destroy worlds. How do we fight that? Maybe we can't, Daehyun said slowly. But maybe we don't have to fight alone. If what Kryn says is true, there are other species who resent the Council's control. What if we could unite them? What if humanity's refusal to sign could inspire others to resist? That's a huge gamble, Hannah said. We're betting Earth's survival on the hope that enslaved aliens will rise up with us against an empire that has controlled the galaxy for 10,000 years. What's the alternative? Daehyun asked. We sign the treaty and hope the Council is merciful? We condemn humanity to the same fate as Kryn's people? At least if we fight, we die free. Hannah thought about her career, about all the years she had spent learning diplomacy, studying alien cultures, preparing for peaceful first contact. None of it had prepared her for this. The Council was not a legitimate government offering partnership. It was a tyranny that had perfected the art of appearing benevolent while crushing anyone who challenged its authority. I need to make a decision, she said quietly. In 30 minutes, I have to return to the Council chamber and either sign the treaty or refuse it. Whatever I choose will determine humanity's future. Jiho cleared his throat. There's something else you should know. While I was scanning the station, I also mapped escape routes. If we need to run, I know the fastest way back to our ship. And I've already sent an encrypted message back to Earth through a hidden relay, explaining everything we've learned. They'll have the information regardless of what happens to us. You think they'll try to stop us from leaving? Hannah asked. I think the Council doesn't like being told no, Jiho replied. When you refuse to sign, things might get hostile quickly. Daehyun stood up and placed a hand on Hannah's shoulder. I know this isn't what you wanted. You believed in peaceful contact, in cooperation between species. So did I, but sometimes the most peaceful thing you can do is refuse to participate in an unjust system. Whatever you decide, the crew of the Perseverance will support you. Hannah looked at both of them, these men who had become more than colleagues during their journey to the stars. She thought about Earth, about billions of humans who had no idea that their first contact with aliens had become a choice between slavery and war. She thought about Kryn and all the other species, trapped by the Council's lies. Then she thought about what it meant to be human. Humans had always resisted tyranny, even when resistance seemed impossible. They had fought empires, overthrown dictators, and repeatedly chosen dangerous freedom over comfortable chains. I know what we have to do, Hannah said, and her voice was steady. We refuse, and we make sure everyone in the galaxy knows why. The Council chamber was more crowded than before when Hannah returned. Word had spread that humanity was about to join the Council. Representatives from dozens of species had come to witness the ceremony. Floating cameras captured everything, broadcasting the event across the galaxy. This was meant to be a celebration, another primitive species accepting the wisdom of the Council's rule. Hannah walked to the central platform with steady steps, though her heart hammered in her chest. Behind her, Daehyun and Jiho took positions near the exit, trying to look casual while being ready to move quickly. The treaty document floated in the air above her. Waiting for her signature, Velthor descended on his platform, his golden robes shimmering in the chamber's light. His 4 eyes fixed on Hannah with what might have been satisfaction. Ambassador Hannah, you have considered the Council's generous offer. I trust you have made the correct decision. Please place your hand on the signing interface and accept the Treaty of Ascension on behalf of all humanity. The chamber fell silent. Thousands of eyes from hundreds of species watched and waited. Hannah could feel the weight of that attention, the expectation that she would do what every species before her had done. She looked at the treaty, at the glowing interface that would bind Earth to the Council forever. "I have made a decision," Hannah said, her voice clear and strong. The translation systems carried her words to every being in the chamber. "But first, I want to share some information with everyone here." Elfelthar's expression shifted to something like confusion. "There is no need for speeches, Ambassador. Simply sign." "The Council showed me a 3,000-page treaty and gave me 1 hour to decide Earth's future," Ino continued, ignoring his interruption. "They demanded immediate acceptance without review or consultation. They said this is how all civilized species behave. But I have to wonder what kind of civilization demands blind obedience. What kind of peace requires complete surrender?" Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned forward with interest. Velthar's scales darkened, a sign of anger that even humans could recognize. "You dare question the Council?" he said, his voice low and dangerous. "You dare suggest that 10,000 years of peace and prosperity are somehow wrong?" "I question a system that refuses to be questioned," Hannah replied. She pulled out her personal device and transmitted data to the chamber's display systems. Jiho had prepared this, a compilation of everything they had discovered. "I question why the treaty requires humanity to surrender all military control, all trade independence, all technological sovereignty. I question why species that refuse to join the Council are now listed as extinct. I question why maintenance workers on this station are treated as slaves." The displays around the chamber lit up with evidence. Historical records of destroyed species, testimony from workers like Kryn, analysis of the treaty's true implications. Surveillance footage of Council forces destroying ships that tried to leave member species. Worlds without permission. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some delegates shouted denials. Others looked shocked. A few, Hannah noticed, looked at the evidence with expressions that suggested they had known the truth but never dared speak it. "This is propaganda," Velfer roared. "Lies told by a primitive species that cannot understand the complexities of galactic governance." "Then let us discuss these complexities," Hannah said calmly. "Let us have an open debate about the terms of the treaty. Let us allow all species to speak freely about their experiences with the Council. Unless, of course, the Council has something to hide. Enough." Velthar's platform shot upward, and he stood at the chamber's apex, towering over everyone. "You have revealed your true nature, humans. You are not interested in peace. You are reckless, dangerous, unwilling to accept the natural order. You threaten the stability that the Council has maintained for millennia." Hannah looked up at him, and she smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "You're right about one thing. Humans are reckless. We're so reckless that when faced with a choice between slavery and freedom, we always choose freedom, no matter the cost. We're so dangerous that we refuse to bow to tyrants, even when they pretend to be saviors. And yes, we absolutely threaten your stability, because your stability is built on the suffering of species that you've trapped in a system they can never escape." She turned to address the entire chamber. "The Council offered humanity membership in exchange for our complete surrender. They expected us to accept because we're new, because we're primitive, because everyone else has accepted. But I'm here to tell the Council and everyone watching across the galaxy that humanity rejects this offer. We reject the treaty. We reject the Council's authority over Earth. We will remain free, whatever the price." The chamber exploded with noise. Some species cheered. Others shouted in anger or fear. Warning alarms began to sound throughout the station. Velthar pointed one clawed hand at Hannah. "You have just declared war on the entire galactic order," he said. "The Council will respond with appropriate force. Your world will burn as an example to others who might foolishly follow your path. Security seize them." Daehyun was already moving. He grabbed Hannah's arm and pulled her toward the exit. Jiho activated a device that released a cloud of smoke and electromagnetic pulses, disabling the security drones that had started to converge on their position. They ran through the corridors with alarms blaring and automated defenses activating. "The Perseverance is ready to launch," Daehyun shouted over the noise. "I had the crew on standby. They're burning through the docking clamps right now. They burst into the docking bay just as their ship's engines flared to life. But they weren't alone. Several other ships, smaller vessels from various species, were also breaking free from their docks. Kryn's moth-like ship was among them, its wings unfolding like sails as it shot toward the exit. "They're following us," Jiho said with wonder in his voice. "Other species are escaping too." The docking bay doors were closing, massive plates of metal grinding together to seal them inside. The Perseverance accelerated hard, throwing everyone against the walls as it raced toward the narrowing gap. They shot through with meters to spare, followed by a dozen other ships. But freedom was not that easy. The space around the Council station filled with patrol ships, all of them turning to intercept the fleeing vessels. Energy weapons lit up the darkness as the Council forces opened fire. Evasive maneuvers, Daehyun ordered as he reached the bridge. The Perseverance twisted and turned, its engines screaming as weapons fire flashed past them. One of the smaller ships wasn't as lucky. It was hit by a particle beam and exploded in a ball of fire. "Turn fire," Daehyun commanded. The Perseverance's weapons, designed for defense against pirates and asteroids, were no match for military vessels. But they didn't need to win this fight. They just needed to escape. Jiho worked frantically at the navigation console. FTL jump point calculated. "We need 30 more seconds to charge the drives. Don't have 30 seconds. The weapons officer shouted as 3 more Council ships moved to cut them off. Then Kryn's ship swept in from the side. Its unusual weapons firing beams of light that seemed to interfere with the Council ship's systems. 2 other alien vessels joined the attack, distracting the Council forces long enough for the Perseverance to finish charging. Jump in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jiho hit the activation key, and the Perseverance lurched as it tore a hole in space and jumped to faster than light speed. The Council station and its patrol ships vanished, replaced by the strange colors of hyperspace. On the bridge, everyone was breathing hard. Hannah collapsed into a chair, her diplomatic robes torn and dirty. "What have we done?" she whispered. "We told the truth," Daehyun said. "And we survived." "For now," Jiho added, pulling up long-range sensor data. "But I'm picking up massive fleet movements throughout Council space. They're mobilizing everything. The message we intercepted says they're declaring humanity a rogue species and a threat to galactic peace. They're sending their entire armada to Earth." "How long do we have?" Hannah asked. "At maximum speed, they'll reach the solar system in 30 days. Maybe less if they push their drives harder than safe limits allow." Hannah looked at the view screen, at the swirling colors of hyperspace that would carry them home. Home to Earth, where 4 billion humans had no idea that their ambassador had just declared war on an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. "Send a message ahead," she ordered. "Tell Earth everything. Tell them the Council's coming. Tell them we have 1 month to prepare for a war we cannot possibly win. And tell them what else?" Daehyun asked gently. Hannah straightened her shoulders, finding strength she didn't know she had. "Tell them that humanity chose freedom. Tell them that we're not alone, that other species are ready to resist. And tell them that even if we lose, at least we'll lose on our feet, rather than live on our knees." The Perseverance raced through hyperspace toward Earth, carrying the news that would change everything. Behind them, the Council prepared for war. And scattered across the galaxy, on dozens of worlds, enslaved species watched recordings of humanity's rejection and began to wonder if they too could dare to be free. The Perseverance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, and Daehyun had never been so relieved to see home. Earth hung in the distance, a blue marble that suddenly seemed very small and fragile. Around it, humanity's defenses looked pitifully inadequate compared to what was coming. "We're being hailed by Earth Defense Command," Minho reported. "Admiral Sujin wants to speak with you immediately." The view screen flickered and Admiral Sujin appeared. She was a woman in her 50s, with gray hair tied back in a tight bun and eyes that had seen too many wars. She commanded the United Earth Defense Fleet from a battle station in high orbit. "Captain Daehyun, Ambassador Hannah," she said without preamble. "I received your reports. I've briefed the Security Council, and they've declared a state of emergency. We have 28 days before the Council Armada arrives, and we have a lot of work to do. Get to Earth immediately. We need you in the war room. 3 hours later. Hannah found herself in a bunker deep beneath Geneva. Surrounded by military officers, scientists, and politicians from every nation on Earth. The room was tense with barely controlled panic. On the main display was a tactical assessment that made her stomach turn. The Council was bringing 10,000 ships, each one more advanced than anything humanity had built. Earth had 300 military vessels, and maybe 1,000 civilian ships that could be armed in time. "Can't win this fight," said General Takeshi from Japan. "Even if we had a year to prepare, we couldn't match their numbers or technology. We should consider evacuation. Load as many people as possible onto colony ships and scatter them across space. At least humanity would survive somewhere and abandon Earth." Admiral Sujen slammed her hand on the table. "Run and hide while our homeworld burns. That's not an option I'm willing to consider, unless there's absolutely no alternative." "Then what do you suggest?" demanded Minister Laurent from France. "We can't fight. We can't run. What's left?" Jiho stood up from where he had been sitting quietly. "We fight, but not the way they expect. The Council has ruled for 10,000 years because everyone fights them the same way, fleets and formations and traditional tactics. They win because they have more ships and better weapons. But humans have always excelled at asymmetric warfare," explained. Sujin ordered. Jiho activated his own tactical display. "The Council Armada will arrive expecting a conventional battle. They'll form standard attack formations, target our major military installations, and assume we'll either surrender or be destroyed within hours. But what if we don't give them that battle? What if we use guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run attacks, unconventional weapons that they won't expect?" A woman Hannah didn't recognize spoke up. She was young, maybe 30, with tired eyes and oil stains on her lab coat. "I'm Dr. Boyang from the Advanced Weapons Division. We've been working on some projects that the Council would consider, well, barbaric. Kinetic weapons, mass driver systems, AI-controlled drone swarms, nuclear mines, things that technically violate most galactic warfare conventions. Good thing we never agreed to follow those conventions," Daehin said with a grim smile. Admiral Sujin leaned forward. "I want to hear everything. Every crazy idea, every desperate plan. We have 4 weeks to turn Earth into a fortress that can bloody the Council's nose hard enough that they think twice about pressing the attack." Over the next hours, plans took shape. Earth's asteroid belt would be turned into a minefield. Hidden weapons platforms would be built throughout the solar system. Every ship, military or civilian, would be armed, and humanity would build weapons that the Council, with their civilized rules of warfare, would never expect. But Hannah was thinking about something else. "We need allies," she said during a brief pause. "When I rejected the Council's treaty, several other ships escaped with us. Species that are tired of being enslaved. If we can unite them, coordinate our resistance, we might have a chance." "The insect species, Kryn's people, have already made contact," said the Secretary General. "They're sending technical data about Council ship designs and tactics. Apparently they've been planning rebellion for decades, but never had the courage to act. Your rejection inspired them." Over the following days, more species reached out. The rebellion was small, just 12 species out of 47, but they brought knowledge and resources. They shared the Council's communication codes, tactical weaknesses, and the locations of weapon caches. Some even sent ships to help defend Earth. Hannah worked with the rebel representatives, helping to forge a real alliance based on mutual respect rather than domination. It was the kind of diplomacy she had always dreamed of, even if it was happening in the shadow of approaching war. Meanwhile, Earth transformed itself. Every factory was repurposed for war production. Scientists worked around the clock on new weapons. Citizens volunteered for defense forces or helped build fortifications. The moon became one giant military base. Mars Colony sent every resource it could spare. Daehin took command of a strike group. 15 fast ships designed for hit-and-run attacks. They practiced tactics that would have made traditional military commanders cringe. Ramming runs, false retreats, suicide drones. Whatever it took to hurt the enemy, Jiho barely slept, coordinating with tactical teams around the solar system. He placed hidden weapons platforms in seemingly random locations, created false sensor readings to confuse enemy scouts, and planned ambushes that would trigger at precise moments during the battle. Dr. Boyang unveiled her team's greatest creation, the hammer. It was a kinetic weapon on a scale never before attempted, a mass driver that could accelerate asteroids to near-light speed. The Council might have shields that could stop energy weapons, but nothing could stop a mountain moving at a significant fraction of the speed of light. 2 weeks before the Council's arrival, Kryn visited Earth in person. Hannah met the moth-like alien at the shuttle port, and they embraced carefully, mindful of each other's different biology. "Your world is beautiful," Kryn said, looking at the sky with wonder. "I have not seen a free world in so long. My people's homeworld looks nothing like this anymore." "The Council has taken everything. We'll get it back," Hannah promised. "After we survive this battle, we'll help free your world and all the others. You have changed the galaxy, Ambassador. Species across Council space are watching Earth. Some are afraid of what you've done, but others are hopeful for the first time in generations. If you can stand against the Council, even for a little while, it will prove that resistance is possible." The day before the Council Armada was set to arrive, Admiral Sujin called a final briefing. Every commander in the solar system attended via hologram. The war room was packed with images of determined men and women who knew they faced impossible odds. "Tomorrow, the Council comes to punish us for refusing their slavery," Sujin said. "They expect us to beg for mercy or die quickly. They think humans are primitive and reckless. Well, they're right about the reckless part. We're so reckless that we'll fight a galactic empire with 300 ships and whatever weapons we can improvise. We're so reckless that we think courage and creativity matter more than overwhelming force." She paused, looking at each commander in turn. "I won't lie to you. Most of us will probably die tomorrow, but we'll die free. We'll die fighting. And we'll make sure the Council remembers that humanity does not surrender, does not bow, and does not accept chains no matter how comfortable they're made to look. If we're going to go down, we'll go down in a way that inspires every enslaved species in the galaxy to follow our example." Hannah stood beside her. "The Council thinks they're coming to destroy one stubborn planet, but they're actually walking into a trap. They've never fought an enemy like us before. They've never faced an enemy that refuses to play by their rules. That uses tactics they consider beneath civilized species. That fights with nothing to lose because we've already chosen death over submission." Daehan added his voice. "We've prepared for 4 weeks. We've turned the solar system into a death trap. We've built weapons the Council has never seen. We've united with rebel species who know the Council's weaknesses. And most importantly, we've proven that the Council can be defied. That's worth fighting for. That's worth dying for." The commanders saluted. Some saluted military style. Others raised fists or placed hands over hearts. Humans and aliens, united in defiance, ready to face an empire that had never lost a war. That night, Hannah couldn't sleep. She stood at a window in the defense station, looking at Earth below. She thought about all the people down there who were trying to live normal lives even as war approached. Children who didn't understand why their parents looked so scared. Elderly who remembered when space was just a dream. "Having second thoughts?" Daehan asked, appearing beside her. "Every thought is a second thought now," Hannah admitted. "Did I make the right choice? Should I have signed the treaty? Bought humanity more time?" "You gave humanity something more valuable than time," Daehan said. "You gave us our dignity. Whatever happens tomorrow, we face it as free people. That matters." The chronometer ticked down to 0. In deep space, sensors detected the emergence of the Council Armada. 10,000 ships, each one a masterpiece of technology and firepower, appeared at the edge of the solar system in perfect formation. The Council Armada emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metal locusts. 10,000 ships arranged in perfect geometric formations that stretched across millions of kilometers of space. At the center of the fleet was the Judgment, a massive battleship 5 kilometers long that served as Velthar's flagship. Its hull was covered in weapon ports, shield generators, and sensor arrays that could detect a grain of sand at the distance of a moon. Admiral Sujin watched the sensor readings from her command station and felt her blood cold. She had known the numbers, but seeing the actual fleet was different. Each of those ships could probably destroy the Perseverance with a single shot, and there were 10,000 of them. "They're hailing us," reported the communications officer. "Put it through," Sujin ordered. Velthor's four-eyed face filled the main screen. His scales were bright with confidence, and his voice carried absolute certainty of victory. "Humans of Earth, this is your final chance to avoid destruction. Surrender immediately. Accept the Council's judgment. You will be occupied, your leaders will be punished for their defiance, but your species will survive as servants to more civilized beings." Sujin smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. "This is Admiral Sujin of the United Earth Defense Fleet. I have a message for the Council, and for every species watching this broadcast across the galaxy. Humanity rejects your surrender demand. We reject your occupation. We reject your entire system of slavery disguised as civilization. If you want Earth, come and take it. But I promise you'll pay for every meter of space with blood." Velthar's expression darkened. "So be it. You have chosen extinction. The Council will make an example of Earth that will be remembered for 10,000 years. All ships, attack formation. Destroy their military forces, then target population centers. Show them the price of defiance." The transmission ended. The Council Armada began to move forward in perfect coordination, a wall of ships advancing on Earth's position. In the war room, dozens of officers watched their screens with expressions ranging from fear to grim determination. "Execute Plan Defiance," Sujin ordered calmly. What happened next would be discussed in military academies for generations, assuming anyone survived to discuss it. The Council Armada expected a conventional defense, with human ships forming defensive lines around Earth. Instead, they got chaos. Thousands of objects that had appeared to be asteroids suddenly activated. They were automated weapons platforms, hidden among the rocks of the asteroid belt. They opened fire simultaneously, launching missiles, energy beams, and kinetic projectiles at the advancing Council fleet. The attack came from every direction at once. And while most of the weapons bounced harmlessly off Council shields, some got through. 3 Council ships exploded. 7 more were damaged. A responding Jiho reported from his tactical station, diverting ships to clear the asteroid belt. "Good," Sujin said. "That's exactly what we want them to do. Daihayan, execute Strike Package Alpha." Daihayan's strike group had been waiting in the shadow of Neptune, about their engines cold, their power systems minimized to avoid detection. Now they came screaming in at maximum acceleration, targeting the ships that had broken formation to deal with the weapons platforms. They didn't try to fight fair. They used nuclear missiles, electromagnetic pulse bombs, and kinetic kill vehicles. They attacked and then retreated before the Council could respond. The Council Armada was taking casualties, but they barely noticed. 10 ships lost out of 10,000 was nothing. They kept advancing, and their return fire was devastating. Every shot from a Council warship could destroy a human vessel. Earth's outer defenses began to crumble. "They're breaking through to the inner system," reported the sensor officer. "Estimate they'll be in range of Earth in 20 minutes. Release the swarm," Sujin ordered. Thousands of objects launched from hidden positions around Earth and Mars. They looked like small asteroids, but they were actually AI-controlled drones, each one carrying enough explosive power to crack a city block. They flew in unpredictable patterns, constantly changing direction, making them almost impossible to target. The Council fleet tried to shoot them down, but for every drone they destroyed, 3 more got through. The drones slammed into Council ships, not causing fatal damage but straining shields and draining power reserves. Dr. Boyong watched from a bunker on the moon, her finger hovering over a control panel. "The hammer is ready," she reported. "Target locked on their flagship." "Fire," Sujin said. The mass driver unleashed its payload. A kilometer-wide asteroid accelerated along a magnetic rail system that stretched halfway across the moon's surface. In seconds, it reached a significant fraction of light speed. The Council detected it, but by the time their sensors registered the threat, it was too late to evade. The asteroid slammed into the Judgment's shields with the force of a nuclear explosion. The shields held, but barely. Energy discharge rippled across the flagship's hull, and several external systems exploded. The entire Council armada faltered for a moment, shocked that the primitive humans had actually damaged their most powerful ship. Hit them again. Velthar screamed from his damaged command center. Destroy everything. I want Earth burning within the hour. The Council armada surged forward with renewed fury. Now, they weren't just following a battle plan. They were angry. And angry commanders made mistakes. They broke formation to pursue human ships. They fired indiscriminately. They rushed ahead without proper coordination. Jiho saw the opportunity. Admiral, they're exposing their flanks. If we trigger Trap 7 now, we can take out a significant number. Do it. Hidden mines planted weeks ago in positions the Council would naturally pass through, detonated. They weren't normal explosives. They were nuclear devices designed to create cascading electromagnetic pulses. Shields flickered and failed. Communications were disrupted. For a brief moment, sections of the Council fleet were vulnerable. Human and rebel forces struck like sharks smelling blood. They focused fire on damaged ships, destroying another 20 Council vessels before the Armada could reorganize. It still wasn't enough to win, but it was enough to hurt them. Enough to prove that Earth could fight. Then the Council brought out their ancient weapons. A group of specialized ships moved to the front of the formation, and they activated something that made human sensors scream warnings. It was a gravitational disruptor, a weapon that could tear apart planets by disrupting their core.
Ow.
They're targeting Earth directly, Jiho said, his voice tight with fear. If that weapon fires, the planet dies regardless of who wins the battle. Can we stop it? Sujin asked. Not with anything we have, Jiho admitted. The ship carrying it has shields we can't penetrate. Then Krin's voice came over the communication channel. I can stop it. My people built similar weapons for the Council. I know their weakness, but I will need to get very close. Hannah, who had been coordinating rebel forces from the defense station, immediately understood. Krin, that's a suicide run. If you get that close, you won't be able to escape. I know, Krin replied, and there was peace in the alien's voice. My species has lived as slaves for 400 years. If I can die giving others freedom, it is a good death. Tell the galaxy what you saw here today. Tell them that resistance is possible. Krin's ship, with its unique moth-like design, accelerated toward the gravitational weapon. Council ships tried to intercept, but other rebel vessels threw themselves in the way, sacrificing themselves to clear a path. Krin's ship took heavy damage, pieces breaking off as it flew, but it kept going. At the last moment, Krin fired every weapon into the gravitational disruptor's core, then crashed the ship directly into it. The weapon's containment failed catastrophically. The resulting explosion took out the weapon ship and 15 others nearby. Earth was saved, but Krin was gone. Register that, Sujin said quietly. Krin of the Moth People gave their life defending Earth. They will be remembered as a hero of humanity. The battle raged for hours. Earth's forces used every trick, every trap, every desperate tactic they could imagine. The Council kept coming, kept attacking, kept trying to crush the resistance through sheer overwhelming force. But something strange was happening. The Council casualties were mounting. Not enough to threaten their overall victory, but enough to matter. They had lost over 300 ships. 300 ships that would never return home. 300 crews that had died fighting against primitives who weren't supposed to be able to resist, and across the galaxy. Billions of beings were watching the broadcast. They saw humans fighting with courage and creativity. They saw rebel species standing together against the Council. They saw that resistance, while costly, was possible. Then the tide turned, not because Earth won, but because the Council started receiving reports from their home, territories, uprisings, rebellions. species that had been enslaved for centuries, suddenly attacking their council overseers. The example of Earth had sparked something across the galaxy. The council's member species were turning against them. Veltha received the reports with growing horror. If he didn't stop the rebellions quickly, the council would collapse. But he couldn't stop them if his entire armada was stuck at Earth, slowly being worn down by human tactics.